My name is Mary Olson. I am the Southeast Regional Coordinator for Nuclear Information and Resource Service, a national organization founded in 1978 by activists in local communities where nuclear power plants were being sited and constructed, including over 98 that were canceled in the intervening years. It is no secret that we are here to oppose this project, but I'd like to speak to some very specific pieces. Needless to say, many of my members are nuclear workers and nuclear worker spouses. I agree that they are wonderful participants in their own communities. And I also want to appreciate all the people who are here tonight as volunteers, who are not on payroll, who are not here out of any kind of economic gain for themselves, simply because they're concerned. Many of those people have helped to turn the course of history in the past, and I'm sure they will now. So one point that I want to bring from a worker that I know in Texas about jobs is that while there may be 400 jobs advertised, and there may be a multiplier effect that we've heard about this evening from various people, the other multiplier effect is the spouse who comes without a job, because most of these 400 people will move into the area because they require specialized training that's not available in the local community. And they bring with them a spouse and very often one or more teenagers, all of whom are looking for jobs. So you get 400 jobs and about 800 job seekers. So the net for Gaffney is not necessarily an increase in employment. Gaffney, Blacksburg, this general area. So cutting now to the scoping issues. The National Environmental Policy Act does allow consideration of options, of course, that's what the whole process is. There's a no action alternative. But currently, I have never heard of a federal agency being honest about the situation that we're in with this site. This site was under construction 30 years ago and subsequently canceled. It was canceled for economic reasons. Duke is currently in a situation where they don't have funding for this site, otherwise they wouldn't be having secret meetings with North Carolina legislators about changing North Carolina law in order to reach into the pockets of their customers in Western North Carolina to pay for this thing. So what is the guarantee that you're not looking at a NEPA process where you're going to look at an action alternative that has absolutely no benefit? High impact and no benefit. That's what it had 30 years ago, that's what it could have now. You construct Pond C and it never generates any electric power because people rise up in North Carolina and realize that energy efficiency and non-fuel based energy technologies are the way to go and refuse to pay. I don't know, I'm projecting, but you're projecting, I'm projecting, they're projecting. Let's be honest. There is an alternative that is a lot of action with no benefit. And we've seen it here. Okay. And I understand the local community wants benefits, but I'm here to say that you could get 3 to 4 times more benefit through instituting a truly green non-nuclear energy base here. The job numbers are spectacular around the world for the development of non-nuclear renewable energy and also energy efficiency, which is delivered, not just telling people to change their light bulbs, but actually going into homes and helping people with stopping the leaks of their insulation, putting in additional better windows, better insulation, better light bulbs, upgrading appliances. The whole wad is a number of issues around how we're spending our money, how we're making our jobs, and what the quality of life is. And quite frankly, the quality of non-radioactive jobs is a lot higher than radioactive jobs, and I really encourage all of the associations in this state to remember that. You can go to Savannah River site and talk to the people who sacrificed themselves for a good reason. They called it the Cold War. This is not the Cold War. Okay, let's go back. We're talking about water withdrawals. We're talking about Pond C. We are in a situation where power generated with steam is causing 2/3 of the water we take out to not produce any power at all. It's just thermodynamics, it's just condensing steam back to water to make power. So if we do the numbers on this site, the projections are more than 30 million gallons a day, but round down to make it easy. 30 million gallons a day that's actually going off the site as steam. 2/3 of that, or 20 million gallons, didn't even make electric power. I think it's time that our federal agencies put into their disclosures the withdrawal of water that could be drinking water, that could be used in an environmental, natural ecosystem versus uselessness. And then we need to disclose about the waste as well, because every form of power that uses fuel makes waste. In the case of uranium fuel, it's waste that can cause cancer, birth defects. Nobody wants it. And I'll go on record that Western North Carolina does not want a granite repository. Thank you very much. But I think it's time that the federal regulators that come out and talk to local communities about new waste generation happening. In addition, that's why you're going to withdraw this water, is to cool that core to be sure that the nuclear meltdown doesn't happen. So good, we're making waste. And so the regulator needs to disclose that the same regulator is considering changing its own regulations to make what is currently 120 years of temporary storage up to 300 years of temporary storage, because there is no plan for what to do with the waste that would be generated at the William States Lee site. So does the local community know that you are being cited with not only a pond and a nuclear power plant, but also a temporary storage site for waste up to 300 years? How long has this country been here? Is 300 years temporary? So these are things in scoping that must be considered and weighed along with the construction of that pond. Is any power going to be generated here that might be construed as a benefit versus the very large impacts to this area by creating that pond? One last comment, again, back to the issue of federal agencies working together and disclosure. You're working with the Army Corps of Engineers, that's good. But how about the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration? How about the projections for the droughts that are on their records for this area? Are you really factoring in the reality that people need water to drink, but there are other ways to generate electricity that do not require water, that do not require fuel, that do not make waste, that do not burden this community with cancer, birth defects, and infertility for the foreseeable future? Thank you for listening.